Folks, I'm excited. I have a huge, well, I say huge. It is huge battle in some ways, but it's also smaller than expected in other ways, and you'll see what I mean here in just a minute. This is a 4v4 team battle where players could choose whichever faction they want, but they had to take a role. So I think some folks on YouTube call it sub-commanders, and that's pretty much what we're doing here. So each team has to have one person play an infantry role, a ranged role, which includes missile infantry and artillery, and then you have a cavalry role and a specials role. And the specials is where you would be focused on monsters or other units that are just more specialty. And we'll explain those here in a minute. So for our team, we have a team up of Chaos, Tomb Kings, Skaven, and Dark Elves. And so it's going to be a lot of fun here. Chaos is taking the infantry role. They're led by Prince Sigvald the Magnificent, and he is magnificent in every way imaginable. We've got a Chaos Sorcerer Lure of Shadows with the Pendulum and Enfeebling Foe. And then as far as infantry goes, there is some Forsaken here in the middle. And they are going to be flanked by Chaos Warriors, and then some Warriors with great weapons, and some Halberds out on the flanks. So the heavier infantry on the flanks, actually, the lighter infantry in the middle, probably because it has a lot of artillery fire support. And speaking of artillery, I think a pretty appropriate choice to lead our artillery is indeed Ikit And here he is. Ikit has brought his clan Scryer artillery in range. There are 3 Warp Lightning cannons, 2 Plague Claw catapults, and then for the rest of the money, just a bunch of Skaven slave slingers to add some extra range power and chaff. And as for the cavalry component of our army, it is... some people might think this is an odd pick, but the pick was made with some purpose. And it is Malice Darkblade leading Dark Elf cavalry. Now, you would think Dark Elves would make a lot more sense for the infantry pick. Maybe even a specialist pick because of all the Medusa and Hydras and Black Dragons and stuff like that. But no, they're picked for cavalry for a very specific reason. There are undead factions on the other side, one of which we assumed would be leading the cavalry contingent, which was the vampire counts. And so specifically the Dark Elves were chosen because the Cold One Knights will be decent in a fight against Armored Large, and then Doomfire Warlocks would be very good against Hex Wraiths, because the combination of Hex Wraiths and Doomfire Warlocks are actually, the combination of Blood Knights and Hex Wraiths are extremely dangerous. And then on top of that, Dark Elves get the Meme Runner Chariots out here, or the Scourge Runner Chariots, which includes, for us, the Ravagers of Rekarth, and then a couple of standard Scourge Runner Chariots. And these guys very good against large, decent against infantry in the late game, and of course there are more Cold One Knights and Doomfire Warlocks over here. So should be a lot of fun for Malice Darkblade. And the final component, I say of my team is what I should say, and it's my component. I am the Tomb Kings leading Cetra the Imperishable. I've brought him on his Chariot of the Gods to have some anti-infantry capability. And then as far as the specialty support I've got 1 Necrosphinx, 1 Sphinx of Uskef Necrosphinx, which is a magic damage variant of this, so it should be helpful, again, if we run into ethereal units or other things that have physical resistance. Just for the meme's sake, I had to bring an Arrow Titan. I didn't really want to do this, but I did want to do it. So the Hyro Titan is decent against infantry, and, it has a lot of armor-piercing damage and magic damage. It also has Spirit Leech bound to it with 1 use and Shem's Burning Gaze with 2 uses. And then the last of my specialty army is a couple of Ushabti with Great Bow, or Bow Shabti, I guess, however you want to go with that one. And then I've got some standard Ushabti, and that was pretty much all the money I had. Now, as far as our opponents go, you can see one of them's already firing. It's Count Noctilus. So let's go ahead and talk about the artillery component. And look at the numbers here, folks. Our army is over twice the size of our opponent's army. So this is going to be a huge classic numbers versus quality thing here, and I'm super excited for it. So if you look at Count Noctilus, a hilarious and wonderful artillery corps here with 3 Necrofex Colossi, one of which is Count Noctilus, and then he's supported with 2 Queen Bess units. And some of you might be like, what's with the unit caps? You have to turn unit caps on, kind of, for this to really work. If we didn't, the unit caps prevent you from picking more than certain numbers of units. So in the future, we may change the rules slightly to where you can only have 1 of a regiment of renown. But really, the only rule we had here was you can't use campaign-only units. So that was one of the rules that we did make here. So anyway, Noctilus's army, 2 Queen Bess, and there is a carronade here, and all this is supported by a gunnery wight, which is honestly fantastic. So some really solid artillery here for the Vampire Coast. The Queen Bess are probably a little questionable, but between 3 Necrofex and a carronade, this is going to be some brutal range component. And then as far as infantry goes, it's the Dawi. That's right, they stacked Norgrimling's Iron Breakers for the front line. These are going to be some extremely potent infantry. There's a Runesmith and the White Dwarf himself. He is angry, he is crazy, he's back from the dead. It is Grum Brindle. So yeah, Grum Brindle is here to help support with the dwarves. And then as far as the specialist role, for the Norskins, they were the specialty picks. So they brought Throg, which is a cool pick for a Norskin specialist role, and then a Famir Balefiend, Lord of Shadows, also a solid pick with Pendulum. And then as far as their support, there is some Famir warriors with great weapons. You can see 2 of those. And then they picked a Frostworm, a cool air support unit. I love that pick. And then they also have 2 Soul Crushers. And remember, Soul Crusher has a bound ability that gives him a huge word save for about 22 seconds. And Mammoths in general just deal... They look like they're only good against infantry, but nothing short of a lot of ranged fire is really that great against these guys. They dish out massive splash damage, huge splash damage. So let's take a look at the Vampire, who is playing the cavalry support role, and then we'll be able to hit play here and let you all into this awesome battle. And it is exactly what we expected. It is several Blood Knights. There's a Claw of Nagash, not as expected. The Red Duke is supporting. That's a really cool pick for a cavalry build. I think that's a lot of fun. And there are 2 Hex Wraiths, and they have very, very dangerously Vanguard deployed back here in a corner behind us, and we definitely deployed our army looking for these types of shenanigans. So we'll see what happens. Right away, there's going to be a ferocious artillery duel, and we decided to target the Queen Bess units first with our artillery, feeling like they would be the easiest units to start pulling down because it's a huge cannon, and it's pretty easy to hit and destroy. So the Queen Bess takes the initial targeting, but honestly the Necrofex Colossi are going to be a huge risk as well. So it's going to be a vicious artillery duel to get things started. There's a lot of Warplock Jezzails for the Skaven as well, so huge artillery duel. Right away, the Doomfire Warlocks do get terrified, which is unfortunate, but they cause a ton of damage to the Hex Wraiths, and then Malice is able to get in here and help hold with some Cold One Knights. And I've got the Hyro Titan because he does magic damage. He's headed this way, and then the Sphinx of Uskef is headed this way as well. Look at this. Holy crap, man. That Warp Lightning Cannon got dumped on by the artillery from the other side. So, I mean, it is a vicious artillery fight right now. I mean, just absolutely vicious. 1 Queen Bess is down, and you can see its crew knocked back here. The 2nd Queen Bess is in trouble. Having a Queen Bess with unlimited ammo, though, would make this battle near impossible, so I don't really... It's a tough situation. We need to target the Necrofex, but we also got to take Bess out of the picture because it can really wreck a lot of units. The Skaven Warplock Jezzails are going to do a little bit of work here on the Necrofex Colossus. Right now, my bow Shabti are firing at the Norgrimling's Iron Breakers, but that honestly may be questionable. Oof, that Pendulum. Very nice by the Chaos player on our team. But yeah, you can see the Necrofex are going to retreat back. They don't want to sit there and trade like that. Actually, the looks like the Warplocks were going after some artillery too. Yeah, they were going after artillery. Honestly, that's not a bad plan. They just don't have a great angle on this carronade. It looks like right now they're still targeted on a Queen Bess unit though, but the cannon's destroyed. So if we take a look at just kind of what happened here, the Hex Wraiths were dealt with. So I've redeployed my Hyro Titan and the Necro Sphinx once this... Oh, actually, they're almost taken care of. They just got finished. So I'm going to redeploy these back forward. You can see a brutal pendulum thrown back across our Forsaken. So we're trading pendulums, trading artillery fire in a really epic brawl. You can see the Skaven Warplock Jezzails here. Let's get up close to these guys. They're going to be unleashing. Natty Bubos is in here. And really... The 3 Necrofex are just unleashing unholy you-know-what all over our artillery. It was a brutal artillery corps. And to have 3 Warp Lightning Cannons and a couple of Plague Claws get shut down the way they did here just gives you an idea of how brutal of an artillery duel we're talking about. So another Pendulum here. I'm using Cetra to kind of bait some of the blasting charges out of these Iron Breakers. And I was hoping for a better charge here, but Cetra just immediately gets stuck in this, so I need to keep him moving and kind of keep him safe. I've got the Sphinx of Uzkef and the Hyro Titan here to support the left flank. I'm continuing to kill as many Iron Breakers as I can with my Great Bows. But again, looking back on this battle, I'm starting to wonder whether I shouldn't have targeted these Necrofex Colossi, because you can see that the Carronade and the Necrofex are really doing some damage. And they got a Gunnery Wight to keep giving them ammunition. And look at that Bale Fiend, man. He is getting some work done with those 2 Pendulums. They were right on point. So it's going to be a brutal infantry fight here. These Norgrimling Iron Breakers, I'm going to try and, again, break things up a little bit with the Ushabti. I feel like this will help save some of the Chaos Infantry. I ended up getting Throgged with Cetra, so I have to fall back from the middle here, because Throg was absolutely taking a dump on Cetra while I was busy somewhere else. So that was a rough mistake for me to make there. And then with all the artillery going, Cetra is obviously a pretty expected target here. Look at just how bad the Norgrimling's Iron Breakers start chewing through the numbers of our line. Remember, they were a lot smaller in number, but the quality on Norgrimling's Iron Breakers is pretty hard to argue. Pretty hard to argue indeed. So you can see there's still 2 Necrofex units left, and their ammo supply will not run out soon, and then the Carronade has already racked up 42 kills as well. Meanwhile, a crazy cavalry fight has been unleashed by the Vampire Counts player. The Necrosphinx is helping against Blood Knights, but the what was left of the Skaven artillery, and that wasn't much, has gotten taken down here by some skeleton summons and some Blood Knights. But Malice Darkblade and his forces, and look at this, Malice tanking out against the Red Duke. You can see right here, he hasn't transformed yet, but Malice is trying to get to the Red Duke, but it's not going easily. But look at the damage his Scourge Runners are doing to these Blood Knights. Now I've got a Necrosphinx to support. And then back here, the Doomfire Warlocks and the Cold One Knights are able to take out the Vampire Cavalry. So this is a pretty important win for our team, at least at the moment. And you can see, though, the Red Duke is going to get loose and go do some more work. Meanwhile, a crazy fight has broken out over here where my Constructs and the Chaos Infantry got bum-rushed by 2 Soul Crushers. And where we were doing well, we're now getting absolutely wrecked. And these 2 Soul Crushers have literally come in and crushed the soul of most of our infantry here. And you can see that I'm doing almost no damage to either one of them. They have their special abilities. It is a brutal situation. Cetra is having to run for his life repeatedly. He's trying to support this infantry fight desperately because it is not going well for us. It is a very difficult situation. The Boshabti pulled over to help mop up some Blood Knights, and you can see over here that Malice Darkblade still hasn't transformed, but there's a very healthy Red Duke back here, and we're going to have to pin him down. Right now, he just goes over and just wrecks the Shadow Sorceress. So the Red Duke has done some fun damage with his army here. Really an interesting play so far, at least, for the Red Duke. We'll see what happens. My Meme Titan is stuck and can't get away, and so at least you'll get some cinematics for the ages here. I mean, how often do you get to see 2 Soul Crushers fight a Hyro Titan? Not that often. So you're welcome. It's at my expense too, because he's totally gonna die. I do manage to get my Sphinx of Uzkef and Cetra back a little. We're having to kind of fall back. The power bar is actually starting to sour against us a little. We've managed to take out all of their cavalry and some of their artillery, but these Norgrimling's Iron Breakers are just bugger tough. And we're having a very difficult time finishing them off. And you can see that Grum Brindle and his forces over here are really putting up a heck of a fight against the Chaos Warriors. Even the Warriors with great weapons did not end up doing well here because they got hit by so many blasting charges. And of course the Skaven lost their Jezzails because of the Skaven lost their Jezzails because of the artillery. Sorry, I was losing my train of thought there shortly. Malice Darkblade is still here, trying to take out the Red Duke. I almost said the Blood Dragon Lord. It's close, but yeah, the Red Duke is putting up an unreal fight back here. This is very impressive work by the Red Duke, and Malice Darkblade just can't seem to put him under, even with all the cavalry support. So this fight continues. And meanwhile, the retreat is on full. Throg came too far forward, and so I tried to goon Throg, but in so doing, it also kind of gives a target to the Vampire Coast Artillery, so I'm taking some fire from them. We do manage to get Throg out of the fight, even if it's just temporarily, and these Deathblowed Bombardiers also get free, and now we've got to face the 2 Soul Crushers, which are bearing down on us with some haste here. check out this fight here too. The Red Duke still just back here tanking it versus cavalry. It's really pretty impressive, the kind of fight that he's been able to put up. I was thinking, yeah, I had to hide Cetra behind this hill. I'm trying to see where Malice ended up. I think Malice actually did transform earlier, and that he's now degraded. So the 2 Soul Crushers came in. They did get hit by these Ravagers of Rakarth and the other Scourge Runner Chariot, and so we do end up routing both the Mammoths. One is having to be chased out further, and you can see, though, I'm under some brutal artillery fire because that Gunnery White keeps providing ammunition to the units over here. The Carronade is just really racking it up. Look at that, 68 kills, triple chevrons. We are going to get the 2 Soul Crushers off the battlefield, so at least that's something for my team. We still have a ton of work to do. Over here, the Dragonback Slayers have caught Ikit Claw in combat. It's not great for Ikit Claw. He does have some armor, but the Dragonback Slayers with their poison are going to be a fight that Ikit doesn't really want to be in. He's got these Skaven Slave Slingers to help. And now, in the face of all this artillery, if I go attack, I'm going to die. If we fall back, we're going to get shot. It's an extremely difficult situation. You can see Noctilus was summoning up more zombie there because he was probably expecting me to go ahead and attack that flank. But I'm actually not going to go after that flank, at least just yet. But then again, at the same time, I don't really have a lot of choice. My Lord is wrecked. My army is somewhat battered. The Chaos Infantry is gone. A lot of our Dark Elf cavalry is gone. Malice was spent to get rid of the Red Duke, who put up an incredible fight. And what is a pretty epic brawl here. And Noctilus and Throg are sitting pretty over here with Grum Brindle. We weren't able to run Throg all the way off the battlefield. And so it creates a situation where he's able to heal because he's a troll. And he's going to regain those hit points. I'm looking for an opening with my constructs, and there's some very nice blocking work here being done by Norska. See how these Famir warriors are kind of keeping pace with me and not giving me any quick entry back here to try and go after Noctilus. And then Throg is sitting back wanting to protect and heal all at the same time. The more Throg heals, the more the balance bar tilts in their favor. Cetra, I have to pull him out and try to use him here. It won't be for long. I expect as soon as he's seen, he's going to get hit by the artillery. So I have to get over here quickly and try and do something with Cetra. See what's left of, or no, here was Malice. When he transformed, it just changed his icon. So yeah, he did transform. You can see he's about to fade away or be shot, one of the two. Ikit Claw is still alive, dropping some much needed Warp Lightning support, but now we're in a fight with Famir warriors and Throg. And even though my Sphinx are quite good in a fight against large, they're just going to be overwhelmed here. There's too much support for the enemy. And this is really kind of a last effort on the part of my constructs to get anything done. Cetra dropped one last sandstorm and was then shot by an artillery piece and killed. So Cetra ended up mostly being a waste here for me, as I couldn't really effectively get into the Iron Breakers because of the protection from Throg and the Famir warriors, so it made it too difficult to use Cetra effectively. The constructs are gone, and at this point my team has really no hope. You know, when I first saw the numbers, I was like, man, there's no way outnumbered 2-1 they're going to pull this off. Like, I felt pretty confident because we had some good artillery. They did a really good job. This is a fun battle. This one was really fun. So thanks to Sovereign, Marvel, Isidore, and Gendrick for putting together an interesting build. And then thanks to Appius, Ghosthead, and Captain Krieg on my side being awesome teammates. Appius pulling the artillery duty, and man, did he have his work cut out for him, having to take on Isidore's artillery here. So this was your artillery on artillery matchup, and honestly, Skaven versus Coast is a pretty awesome and appropriate artillery matchup. This time it went to Count Noctilus and his Coast. So a really cool matchup there. Enjoyed this one. You can see the stats from both those players. As far as specials versus specials, let's put up myself and Gendrick. What units did well for me? The Bo Shabti killed a lot of Iron Breakers. Was that the right target in the end? Some part of me thinks no. Some part of me thinks that I should have been targeting the Necrofex or the Carronade, take those out of business because they were able to do so much damage from range. And then you think about it, they were also hurting Cetra most of the time. If you could have dealt with some of those units, maybe things could have been different in the end. I don't know. That's still a lot of Iron Breakers for us to deal with, and our infantry was definitely going to struggle to get through the Iron Breakers. We did get some nice support. Not a ton of kills on the Necrosphinx unit, but remember a lot of things they killed. Hexwraiths, Blood Knights, and then they did a lot of their damage up against Mammoths and other stuff. You're not going to see a lot of kills, My window's open, so if y'all heard a car driving past, that's why. I'm just trying to take advantage of the cool weather. But in any case, yeah, they did a lot of damage. They're not going to show a lot of kills. Now, again, the Hyro Titan got some kills on some Hex Wraiths early. Didn't end up doing a lot. He just ended up kind of getting crapped on. Now, that said, I did not chevron this Hyro Titan. He picked up the chevron, so he must have caused some good damage against the Hex Wraiths, is about the only thing that I can imagine. Of course, no loud cars have driven past all day, and now that I'm recording, here comes 2 giant trucks past my window. In any case, yeah, so I didn't put any chevrons in any of my units. I only had 3 gold left, so all of these units gained chevrons in their own, kind of give you an idea. Gendrick, great pick here with the Famir Warriors as support, and then the 2 Soul Crushers, an interesting pick because of their ability to have that ward save. And then I love how these units were thrown in to really good effect against the Sphinx and the Hyro Titan to help break our left flank, and boy did they break it. Now eventually they were broken as they charged forward, but they really broke open that left flank. The Frostworm was a cool support unit. Throg and his Famir Balefiend both did very well. Let's match up infantry to infantry. Ghosthead with his Chaos Warrior infantry led by Sigvald, and Sigvald must have gotten KO'd somewhere in there as well. In the infantry fight, I didn't actually catch it this time. Grum Brindle and his forces come out the victor in this case, and very nice work by the Norgremlings Ironbreakers. I didn't have any problem with them bringing these units. It certainly wasn't against the rule. We may do one in the future where we limit the Regiments of Renown to just 1 of that unit, just for lore's sake. But not complaining about what Marvel did here. We set up the rules, and this was a solid pick for those rules because the Norgremlings Ironbreakers are very hard to break through. They don't do a ton of damage with their melee attacks, but they can do a lot of damage with their blasting charges, and they create an area of denial in front of an infantry line where you really don't want to get in there because you're just going to take so much damage. So unless you can kill them from range, you're bound to take a lot of damage to them in the end. Dragonback Slayers, good support. Fun pick here, and then fun pick from Ghosthead as well. A little bit of mobile infantry because he was hoping to maybe have a chance to get to skirmishers. A little bit of standard armored infantry and a little bit of armor-piercing infantry. So it's kind of a mix of all things with an appropriate infantry leader. Then as for the last bit, cavalry against cavalry, we had Captain Krieg up against Sovereign. And Captain Krieg's pick came out very appropriate here. He was able to deal with the Blood Knights. He was able to deal with the Hex Wraiths. And then the Scourge Runner Chariots may have needed to get after the Mammoths earlier. But honestly, Captain Krieg did some pretty good work overall. And in the end, when he did get over there towards the Mammoths, he was the one who was pretty clutch in helping to rout them with the Scourge Runner Chariots and then chase them off. And Zarkon/Malice really had to work hard, but he did get rid of the Red Duke eventually. Eventually. It was quite a brawl between these two, so it ended up being a cool matchup. And I love how he picked the Dark Elves here. Not the expected faction to be the cavalry faction, but it was a fun one, and it was enjoyable. So anyway, hope you all enjoyed this little bit of sub-commanders type action here. If you all did, we can always play more of these, and we can tweak the rules to whatever we want, pick different maps, have some fun with it. I thought this was a lot of fun. And I think that there was another group of people on the European server who were playing a battle. I'll see if they've sent it in. If so, I might have another one to show you, and we'll see what they did in their battle as well. But this is how mine turned out. Hope to see you all soon with some more Total War action. HeirofCarthage, out for now.